All right, guys, well, I'm back today with one of the nicest thermal optics I've ever had out to the channel. This is the brand new Pulsar Thermion 2 XQ50 Pro, the 3 to 12 variant. This thermal imaging scope has some insane specs and features, an incredibly long battery life, great image quality, and an overall amazing user interface, and this is all possible because of Optics Planet. These guys actually sent this out at my request, and I'm really glad they did because this gives us a baseline for a premium thermal optic to compare others to, and it also gives us what a more high-end thermal optic feels like when engaging targets down at the range and shooting it in a wide variety of scenarios. Optics Planet also has a deal going on with this optic, and every time they do feature deals, I put them on the campsite page. I also have the code 704TAC for 7% off your Optics Planet order. Now, this optic generally sells for about $4,180. They've got them on sale for 16% off with 8 left currently at $3,499. Again, I still have that code 704TAC to save you some more money, but that puts it into perspective of sub $3,500, and all things considered, it's a good price for what you get. I've reviewed cheaper thermals on the channel that Optics Planet also sent out, and there's definitely differences between the thermals. Let's talk about this one. Now, before we get too far into it, I do want to give a huge shout out to AAC Ammo for sponsoring the ammo to help me make this video. I'm showing you some of their subsonic 147 grain 9, but we ran a lot of the 55 grain and 62 grain ammo through this from AAC to really put rounds down range to get a thorough and evaluated view of this Pulsar. So a huge shout out to AAC. The best AAC opportunities are also going to be found on the campsite page. So let's dig into the overview of this optic. One of the main things I want to talk about is it mounts up like a normal rifle scope. So it's not very confusing to use. It's very easy to understand. It comes with a rubberized eye cup on the back to kind of shield the ambient light from around you, and also to shield the light from hitting the screen if you happen to use this in the day. Now, you can use this in the day or at night, but I found it was incredibly easy to sight it in during the day with all things considered an Optics Planet green and white target. The green and white actually pick up heat differently. You can see that easily when you're sighting everything in. Take your shots, and there's a sight in menu that's very easy to access from the push button controls at the top of this optic. The other cool thing is this records everything, so you can record a lot of different features. Now, one thing to note, I could only get it to record correctly when I read the instruction manual and downloaded the Stream Vision Ballistics app, and then I could download from the app the video gallery to my phone. So there's a lot of the recordings that I took initially that didn't actually work. So you'll want to dig through the manual, but it's very easy to understand. You download the app, you turn the Wi-Fi on in your optic from the settings menu, and then you connect. Now, I actually had a little bit of difficulty connecting when I had LTE going and other Wi-Fi, so I actually turned on airplane mode, clicked the Pulsar that detected the Wi-Fi from here, and it connected super easy. Just a little tip if you happen to be struggling and you watch this review, but this was actually the easiest connectivity I've had from a thermal optic yet on the channel. I've reviewed some others and could never get them to work. Once I figured out that airplane mode trick, I got this to work every single time. You may not need to do that, but just something to consider. The other cool thing about this is it comes with different batteries that you can actually swap out. Now, it's got an internal battery that holds the charge, but this is a secondary battery. So if you realize your secondary battery is going dead, it comes with 2, and you can swap them out and keep going and charge one off a battery bank, making this almost infinitely long lifespan when you're in different hunting applications or range applications or even surveillance applications. Now, I want to note we are going to be looking at some images that I recorded with this optic, but I've got so much time behind it, and I've taken a look at a ton of different things. Turn on the optic, there's a main power button right here, a flip to side lens cover, and on top of it is another really cool feature. It's actually a laser rangefinder built into the optic, which we'll take a look at in a second, and it works incredibly well. You actually click one of the rear buttons, you click it again, and it gives you the range, or you could put it in scan mode, where it starts displaying the range at every single target that you may be looking at. On top of that, it can calculate the bullet drop compensation once you add the ballistic data through your Stream Vision's ballistic app, and it gives you a projected aiming point for the drop of your round. Now, I haven't done this yet because honestly, the farthest I can shoot is about 200 yards, and for 5.56, it's not really worth calculating that drop because I sight everything in at 100 yards. You're about plus or minus 2 inches at a distance. And I feel like that's good for most hunting applications that I'm doing. But if you want to dig into the ballistic coefficient of your round and input that data into your optic or into the profile of the app, you can laser range find and it auto calculates the drop and displays that, which is again an amazing feature. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you want to use it, and it's incredibly nice. The laser rangefinder, it's by far something I'm going to use all the time because when you are looking through a thermal, you're looking at a screen, and it's hard to judge distance, but with that laser rangefinder, it works out great. Again, I'll be showing you guys some of the images working with that through the optic in a minute. The other thing I want to mention is the clarity and understanding of what you're looking at with this optic is insane. By far the nicest I've ever seen, and you can get the exact detailed specs and features of the sensor used on OP's website. The other thing I want to mention is they have picture-in-picture, which we'll see in a second, that actually zooms in at the crosshairs at the top. It's slightly more pixelated, but it still gives you a wide field of view, which is not something I've seen before on different thermals. This allows you to zoom in, yet both get an understanding of where you're shooting without completely zooming in, and so it's just a nice feature. You can focus everything up here with the focus knob on both sides, and everything about this has been great down at the range. Now I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the footage I took, and again, this is just a small portion of what we were shooting. I've got a lot of rounds behind this in both day and night, and it's been working great, but let's take a look at some of it. So one of the first things I saw when I went outside the other evening was a rabbit about 25 to 30 yards away, and man, you can see every little detail on this rabbit. There's the picture-in-picture I'm talking about with a zoom in on the crosshairs at 3.5x, and I'm also utilizing the rangefinder at this point to see that it is 25 yards. It's also giving me an angle calculation of the cant of the optic and how to correct it for those extreme distance shots. You can see my tractor there that's been sitting out in the sun, and I've also switched over to the red hot mode, allowing me to detect very easily different types of heat signatures. So just a very cool option. We're transitioning to the front of my house. This is also not attached to a rifle at this point, FYI. You can see the heat signature of the driveway and road that's still retaining the heat, and me kind of calculating the distance to the tree line across the front yard and past the cornfield. So it works out incredibly nice. This is looking down at a carport, and you can see using the rangefinder picture-in-picture, this is about 161 yards, and you can easily tell nothing is in the field, and it picks up really nice heat signatures well. I was also looking at deer and other animals in the field, and you could easily tell what things were. Not just make out that there was a heat signature, but understand what you were looking at. Whether it was a dog, cat, coyote, raccoon, you can make out those subtle details with this optic that you couldn't necessarily make out with other thermals I've reviewed on the channel. If you're going to be primarily hunting 200 yards and out, this is the thermal for you because you can actually see what it is and take your shots accordingly. Even hunting closer in, this is amazing, but you could potentially get other thermals cheaper than this to do the job if you're primarily going to be hunting varmint 150 yards and in. This may be just a touch overkill, but if you've got the money, this is a one and done optic. Out of all the thermals, this is the one I'm choosing. That's why I threw it on top of this Daniel, because it's a premium rifle with a premium optic, and this is now my night vision hunting setup for varmints and small game. This is going to be a cool setup to take in the future and take some shots with it. Again, we've already taken it down to the range. The heat signature was very easy to understand, even in day and night, to sight everything in, and it has been absolutely working great. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope it gives you a great option if you're looking for a premium thermal optic. And again, a huge shout out to Optics Planet for sending this out for me to try. I'm a big fan. I think you will be too. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.